Peter Thiel, in his book 0 to 1, says that every moment in business happens only once. The next Bill Gates will not build an operating system, the next Larry Page or Sergey Brin won't make a search engine, and the next Mark Zuckerberg won't create a social network. He says that if you are copying them, you aren't learning from them. It's easier to copy, but doing what we already know how to takes the world from 1 to n, building more of the same. However, every time we create something new, we go from 0 to 1. The act of creation is singular, as is the moment of creation, and the result is something fresh and strange. If the leading companies don't invest in the difficult task of creating new things, they will fail in the future, irrespective of how big their profit is today. Kodak, Nokia, and BlackBerry are a few such examples from the 90s. What happens when we have gained everything these companies have to offer to us, even after fine tuning these to their last breath? Unlikely as it sounds, the answer is something far worse than the global financial crisis of 2008. Today's best practices leads to dead end. The best path forward are new and untried. In the world of gigantic administrative bureaucracies, both public and private, searching for a new path seems like hoping for a miracle. If the businesses are going to succeed, we are going to need hundreds or even thousands of miracles. We call these miracles technology. All technology, old or new, is miraculous because it allows us to do more with less, increasing our fundamental capabilities to a higher level. Other animals are also instinctively driven to build things like dams and honeycombs. Dams are built by beavers, and honeycombs are obviously built by bees. But we are the only ones who can invent new things and better ways of making them. Other animals can only build what they have inherited based on their evolution, but us humans don't decide what to build based on some cosmic catalog of options given in advance. Instead, by creating new technology, we rewrite the plan of the world. These are kind of truths that we teach in second grade but easily forget growing up in a world where most of what we do is repeat of what has been done before. The book 0 to 1 is about how to build companies that create new things. Peter Thiel says that the paradox of teaching entrepreneurship is that such a formula necessarily cannot exist because every innovation is new and unique and no authority can prescribe how to be innovative. Successful people find value in unexpected places, and they do this by thinking about businesses from first principles instead of formulas. First principle thinking is the act of breaking down anything to its basic fundamental parts that we know are true and can't be broken down any further, then building our way up from there. It's a fancy way of saying think like a scientist. Scientists don't assume anything. They start with questions like what are we absolutely sure is true and what has been proven. 2000 years ago, Aristotle defined the first principle as the first basis from which a thing is known. For an example for the first principle, we can say that the sky is blue. We all know that it's a truth and that it isn't derived or deduced from something else. So, to sum it up, in theory, first principles thinking requires us to dig deeper and deeper until we are left with only foundational truths of a situation. It is a cycle of breaking a situation down into core pieces and then putting them all back together in a more effective and innovative way. People like Elon Musk use and talk about first principles all the time. However, in practice, they don't simplify every problem down to the atomic level. They just go one or two levels deeper than most other people do, then combine those broken pieces to drive innovation. Now let's talk about the first principles a bit. We will talk about how first principles are used to drive innovation What are the challenge of reasonings from first principles? What is the power of first principles and how to think for yourself? Many of the most groundbreaking ideas in history have been a result of boiling things down to the first principle and then substituting a more effective solution for one of the key parts. For example, Johannes Gutenberg, a German inventor and craftsman, combined the technology of a screw press, a device used for making wine, with movable type, paper, and ink to create the printing press in the 15th century. Movable type at that point in time had been used for centuries, but Gutenberg was the first person to consider the constituent parts of the process and adapt technology from an entirely different field to make printing far more efficient. The result was a world changing innovation and started the widespread distribution of information for the first time in human history. Often, the best solution is not where everyone is already looking. By the way, this is also true in the field of investing, where often the best investments are hidden where people aren't looking. First principles thinking helps you to cobble together information from different disciplines to create new ideas and innovations. You start by getting to the facts. Once you have a foundation of facts, you can make a plan to improve each little piece. This process naturally leads to exploring widely for better substitutes. First principles thinking can be easy to describe but quite difficult to practice. One of the primary obstacles to first principles thinking is our tendency to optimize form rather than function. The story of the suitcase provides a perfect example. In ancient Rome, soldiers used leather bags to carry food while riding across the countryside. At the same time, the Romans had many vehicles with wheels like chariots, carriages, and wagons. And yet, for thousands of years, nobody thought to combine the bag and the wheel. The first rolling suitcase wasn't invented until 1970 when Bernard Sadow was hauling his luggage through an airport and saw a worker rolling a heavy machine on a wheeled skid. Throughout the 19th and 20th century, leather bags were specialized for particular uses like backpacks for school, rucksacks for hiking, and suitcases for travel. Zippers were added to bags in 1938. Nylon backpacks were first sold in 1967. Despite these improvements, the form of the bag remained largely the same. Innovators spent all their time making slight iterations on the same theme. What looks like innovation is often an iteration of previous forms rather than an improvement of the core function. While everyone else was focused on how to build a better bag, which is a form, Sado considered how to store and move things more efficiently, which is a function. And he changed the world forever. Imagine if you have to carry a suitcase without wheels today. The human tendency for imitation is a common roadblock to first principles thinking. When most people envision the future, they project the current form forward rather than projecting the function forward and abandoning the form. For example, when criticizing technological progress, some people ask, where are the flying cars? But here's the thing, we have flying cars. They are called airplanes and helicopters. People who ask this question are so focused on form, that is, a flying object that looks like a car, that they overlook the function, which is transportation by flight. This is what Elon Musk is referring to when he says that people often live life by analogy. Be wary of the ideas you inherit. Old conventions and previous forms are often accepted without questions, and once accepted, they set a boundary around creativity. This difference is one of the key distinctions between continuous improvement and first principles thinking. Continuous improvement tends to occur within the boundary set by the original vision. By comparison, first principles thinking requires you to abandon your allegiance to previous forms and put the function front and center. What are you trying to accomplish? What is the functional outcome you are looking to achieve? Optimize the function, ignore the form. This is how you learn to think for yourself. Ironically, perhaps the best way to develop cutting-edge ideas is by is to start by breaking things down to fundamentals. Even if you aren't trying to develop innovative ideas, understanding the first principles of your field is a smart use of your time. Without a firm grasp of the basics, there is little chance of mastering the details that make the difference at elite levels of competition. Every innovation, including the most groundbreaking ones, requires a long period of iteration and improvement. So I'm not diminishing its importance. SpaceX ran many simulations, made thousands of adjustments, and required multiple trials before they figured out how to build an affordable and reusable rocket. So, if you want to enhance an existing process or belief, continuous improvement is a great option. But if you want to learn how to think for yourself, reasoning from first principles is one of the best ways to do it. So, that's all for this video. Until next one, see ya.